Hey guys, last time I was here, I made a video where I showed how to take this necropolis and make it be that in the necropolis birth animation, here let's make this nice and big, in the necropolis birth animation, it shows up as this custom model for the birth animation there. Now what we want to do next, the same guy's asking me, what about other buildings, right? So a lot of other buildings are the same. Like if you want to go to Altar of Darkness, it's the same. It's this green one. You want to turn it to the blue one, you just basically change it. But what if you wanted to make the farm build that same way, right? Now that's a little bit harder to do because if you look at a farm, it's stored differently. So let's start looking at a farm. So if I go to human, oh, that was interesting. This thing is showing, it's strange. It was like it suddenly jumped to this animation here. Anyway, yeah, if we go to a farm, let's just say like a farm. Okay, here's the farm. My little previewer has a bug that it shows fire on the farm. That's just silly. But if you look at the farm's birth animation in general, what you see is that, it's got this little, like some smoke and some wood and all this stuff going on, a little moving axe, right? And it's specific to the farm. Like, that chimney is a farm chimney. And it's not on any other model. And so when you look at how the farm does its birth animation, you can see that it's like all these little parts, like this chimney and these little racks of wood and stuff, and they're inside the farm. They're a part of the farm. And so if you said, well, I want to change the farm to actually have that other thing, the key is going to be that you want to actually like bring in that other thing into the farm. So it becomes the question, how do you do that? Now, what I would typically do if I was going to do that is I would do a file import from unit. And so I would just tell the farm, we're going to have this farm just use necropolis birth animation, right? Because then I can just go to the necropolis. I can say we don't need any of its mesh. We can leave all of its animations, which unchecks this import box on all of them, except birth. We check birth, so we give ourselves necropolis birth. We don't need any bones because those are for animations. We don't need any of this other stuff except birth link. And we say, okay, I'm just going to get birth link. I'm going to bring that in. And inside the visibility, I'm going to say in existing and farm animations that are already there, we're going to make it not visible. So I do that, and now the farm has two births, right? It has birth here, and it has this birth, which I did wrong, actually. I did that wrong. Now the reason why I did that wrong, if you're curious why, let's reopen the farm. So if I click again on farm here, you can see now it's gone. If we do that same process again, and we want to make sure we do it right, don't mess up like I did. We leave all the stuff. We check the birth animation. So we're going to carry in that birth animation. We leave all the other stuff. We leave all the other stuff, as well as saying that. Oh yeah, we got to get birth link. So birth link is this link node that'll make it do the necropolis birth animation. So we're going to say that in farm animations, birth link doesn't show up, but we're also going to say in necropolis animation, the farm doesn't show up, right? So it's just the thing we want it to be. And you can also do that with all these other particles for the farm. These are like all the, like when you're building it, there's dust coming up and stuff like that. We're going to make all that dust disappear in this birth animation. So now what that's going to do, sorry, that was the mistake I made, is you have birth of the farm. And birth of the farm, we have dust, we have saw, and stuff like that. And you have birth of the necropolis. And they're together here in this same file. So the problem now is, which one are we going to use? And basically the way to choose which one we're going to use would be to just go and actually, let me just expand this footer. If you expand the footer, you can actually edit animations. You can go to birth, and you can just say delete. And say yes, and you can get rid of the old one. And now if you save this farm, let's call this the undead farm, because it's an undead looking farm, right? So now if I go to this guy and I actually import the undead farm, you'll see that in this undead farm, it's going to pretty much do what we want, but there is something else to take into account here. So I'm going to go to this farm, I'm going to tell it that it uses undead farm, and let's give ourselves a peasant. And let's talk about this farm. So if I actually save this and we launch the game, we can talk about this farm and we can talk about what we did. There's a couple issues. Okay, great.
My life for
So here's my guy. Now, this is an acolyte. Let's get a peasant. And let's say I want to build a farm, right? He's going to build this farm right here.
Alright.
Okay, now you can see the farm is going to summon like the undead building. And, you know, that seems fine. It'll continue on there
Job's done. Yes,
until it
me
finishes and the farm appears. We kind of got two problems, right? So the first problem is it's too big. And the second problem is that this farm, in its file, there's like wasted space inside the farm file for like a lot of things that we aren't using, right? So for example, some of these things like sawdust particles and dust particles and all this other stuff, maybe you want to delete that, right? Or like maybe we want to delete all of these just like pieces of little wood and all this stuff because we're not using them anymore. They're just taking up space in our file. And like, you don't really want to just have wasted space on all these little pieces of wood, right? So what you can do is if you make sure that the nodes are turned off, so you can like check and uncheck all the nodes by double clicking that, make sure the nodes are turned off. And you go in and you just get basically all of this wood for while the farm is under construction. You could just drag select over all this wood and push delete. And that just makes your file smaller, right? You're just saving space because we're not using it anymore. Like in the birth animation that used to use that is gone. So that's just a good thing. That just saves us some space. Now the other thing that you might want to do is if you go to the nodes and you go to birth link. So this is the link. It's the link to the other model for while we summon in the farm, right? And let's go to specifically the birth animation when we use it. The key here is going to be, and some interesting things to note, is it has visibility data. So that's good. We're just going to leave that. I wonder if when I right-clicked on that. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So the next thing you want to do actually is let's see if we can make it smaller. So this is select and scale. Now you can't really see if you make it smaller, but what we can do is we can use these rectangular boxes. So if I take my mouse out to 2 boxes, you know, in this grid, and I drag down to 1 box, we should make it about half the size. And so you can't see it, but we're scaling it to make it smaller. And now if I save that, this should be Undead Farm 2. And hopefully what you'll see is that Undead Farm 2, we saved some space because we deleted all that wood. So we went from 85 kilobytes to 36 kilobytes. It's less than half the size. And you'll see that as well as deleting all that extra wood, we should also find that our farm is probably going to have a little small green circle instead of that big green circle. So let's go in here. Let's actually choose Undead Farm 2. And now if you look at birth, it has a little farm-sized green circle, just like we want, right? So we could test that in the game, but you can see it's a good thing that you delete all that extra wood because you don't need that wood. It's never going to show up anymore. We got rid of that animation. And now it also has a nice small green circle for it. Let's try that. There you go. See, now we have a little farm-sized circle. It looks pretty much just right. And it plays to the end and a farm appears. So, you know, if you wanted to be really, really fancy, you could go and try to make the farm fade in green. But adding that is a little bit more involved. I think maybe it's beyond the scope of this video. So maybe I'll make another video later of how to actually make your farm fade in green at the end of that. But that's pretty much the tutorial on everything you need to know on if you want to make your farm do that. And something else you might notice here actually is that you can see this square base from when you're building the farm is still there, even though in every single animation, like stand, portrait, death, it's never used anymore, right? You could delete it too if you want to save even more space. I just didn't think of doing that. So yeah, there you go, and I hope that helps.